ஹலோ டீச்சர்ஸ், இந்த வீடியோவில் என்ன பார்க்க போகிறோம்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா Pgtrb சிலபஸ் மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ் சப்ஜெக்ட்டுக்கான சிலபஸ் தான் பார்க்க போகிறோம். இதில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 150 கொஸ்டின்ஸு, 150 மார்க்கு, நெகட்டிவ் மார்க் எதுவும் கிடையாது. 3 hours எக்ஸாமு. இதுக்கான குவாலிஃபிகேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எம்எஸ்சி பிஎட் முடிச்சிருக்கணும் மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸில். இதுக்கான ஃபுல் சப்ஜெக்ட்டுமே எதுக்கான குவாலிஃபிகேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா +1 +2 டீச் பண்ணுறதுக்கான குவாலிஃபிகேஷன், அதுக்கான எக்ஸாமுக்கான சிலபஸ் தான் இந்த சிலபஸ். அந்த சிலபஸை பற்றின ஃபுல் டீட்டெயிலும் உள்ளே பார்க்கலாம், வாங்க பார்க்கலாம். For the post of written requirement test for the post of postgraduate assistant in Tamil Nadu Higher Secondary Educational Service. Syllabus Maths subject code P03. First unit algebra, groups, examples, cycle groups, permutation groups, large ranges theorems, casts, normal groups, homomorphisms theorems, Cauchy's theorems, Cauchy's theorems, Zylow's theorems, finitely generated abelian groups, rings, Euclidean rings, polynomial rings, UFD, quotient, field of integral domains, ideals, maximal ideals, vector space, linear independence and bases, dual spaces, inner product spaces, linear in transformation, rank, characteristics, rules of matrices, Cayley-Hamilton theorem, canonical form under equivalence, fields, characteristics of a field, algebraic extensions, roots of polynomials, splitting fields, simple extensions, elements of Gauss theory, finite fields. Second unit பார்த்தீங்கன்னா real analysis, cardinal numbers, countable and uncountable cardinals, Cantor's diagonal process, properties of real numbers, order, completeness of RLUB, property in R Cauchy's sequence, maximum and minimum limits of sequences, topology of R Hein-Borel, Bolzano-Weierstrass, compact if and only it closed and bounded, connected subset of R Lendolf's covering theorems, continuous functions in relation to compact subset and connected subsets, uniformly continuous function, derivatives, left and right derivatives, mean value theorem, Rolle's theorem, Taylor's theorems, L'Hospital's rule, Riemann integral, fundamental theorem of calculus, Lebesgue measure and Lebesgue integral on R, Lebesgue integral of bounded measurable function, other sets of finite measure, comparison of Riemann and Lebesgue integrals, monotone convergence theorem, repeated integrals. Third unit பார்த்தீங்கன்னா Fourier series and Fourier integrals, integration of Fourier series, Fages theorem on C1, summability at point, Fages-Lebesgue theorem and C1 summability almost everywhere, Rees-Fisher theorem, Bessel's inequality and Bessel's theorem, properties of Fourier coefficient, Fourier transform in L, D, D, Fourier integral theorem, conversion theorem for Fourier transforms and Poisson summation formula. Unit 4 differential geometry, curves in space, Sharrat-Fahrenheit formulas, locus of centers of curvature, spherical curvature, intrinsic equation, helices, spherical indicatrix surfaces, envelope, edge of regression, developable surfaces associated to a curve, first and second fundamental forms, lines of curvature, Michelius theorem, Gaussian curvature, Earle's theorem, Dolphin's indicatrix, surface of revolution conjugate system, asymmetric line, isometric lines, geodesics. Unit 5th பார்த்தீங்கன்னா operations research, linear programming, simplex computational procedure, geometric interpretation of simplex procedure, the revised simplex method, duality problems, degeneracy procedure, perturbation techniques, integer programming, transformation problem, non-linear programming, the convex programming problem, dynamic programming, approximation in a function space, successive approximations, game theory, the maximum and minimum principle, fundamental theory of games, coining theory, single server and multi-server models, MGI, GMI, G1I models, Erlang service distribution cost model and optimization, mathematical theory of inventory control, feedback control in inventory management, optional inventory policies in deterministic models, storage models, dam type models, dams with discrete input and continuous output, replacement theory, deterministic stochastic case, models for unbounded horizons and uncertain case, Markov decision models in replacement theory, reliability, failure rates, system reliability of growth models, network analysis, direct network, max flowing cut theorem, CPM, PERT, probabilistic condition and decisional network analysis. Unit 6th, functional analysis, Banach spaces, definition and examples, continuous linear transformation, Banach theorem, natural embedding of X and in X, open mapping and closed graph theorem, properties of conjunct of an operator, Hilbert spaces, orthonormal base, conjugate space H, adjoint of an operator, projections I2 as a Hilbert space, IP space, holders and Minkowski inequalities, matrices, basic operations of matrices, determination of a matrix determination and spectrum of an operator, spectral theorem for operators of an finite dimensional Hilbert space, regular and singular elements in a Banach algebra, topological divisor of zero, spectrum of an element in a branch algebra, the formula for the spectral radius, radical and semi-simplicity. Next, unit 7, complex analysis, introduction to the concept of analysis function, analytic function, limits and continuity, analytic function, polynomials and rational functions, elementary theory of power series, Maclaurin series, uniform convergence power series and Abel's limit theorem, analytic function as mapping, conformality, arcs and closed curves, analytical functions in regions, conformal mapping, linear transformation, the linear group, the cross ratio and symmetry, complex integration, fundamental theorems, line integrals, rectifiable arcs, line integrals as functions of arcs, Cauchy's theorem for a rectangle, Cauchy's theorem, rectifiable arcs, line integrals as functions of arcs, Cauchy's theorems for a rectangle, Cauchy's theorems in a circular disk, Cauchy's integral formula, the index of a point with respect to a closed curve, the integral formula, higher derivatives, local properties of analytic functions and removable singularities, Taylor's theorem, zero and false, the local mapping and maximum model principle. Next, unit 8, differential equations, linear differential equations, constant coefficient, existence of a solution, Wronskian, independence of solution, initial value problems for a second order equations, integration in series, Bessel's equations, Legendre and Hermite polynomials, elementary properties, total differential equations, first order partial differential equations, Sharpest method. Next, unit 9, statistics 1, statistical method, concept of statistical population and random sample, collections and presentation of data, measure of location and dispersion, moments and shepherd correction, cumulate measure of skewness and kurtosis, curve fitting by least squares, regression, correlation and correlation ratio, rank correlation, partial correlation, multiple correlation, coefficient, probability, discrete, sample space, events, their union, intersection, etc., probability, classical relative frequency and axiomatic approaches, probability in continuous probability space, conditional probability and independence, basic laws of probability of combination of events, Bayes theorem, probability functions, probability density functions, distribution function, mathematical expectations, marginal and conditional distribution, conditional expectations. Unit 10 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா statistics 2, probability distribution, binomial, Poisson, normal, gamma, beta, Cauchy's, multinomial, hypergeometric, negative binomial, Chehichov's lemma, weak, law of large numbers, central limit theorem for independent identical variates, standard errors, sampling distributions of T, F and Chi square and their uses in test of significance, large sample test for mean and proportions, sample surveys, sampling frame, sampling with equal probability with or without replacement, stratified sampling, brief study of two-stage systematic and cluster sampling methods, regression and ratio estimates, design of experiments, principles of experimentation, analysis of variance, completely randomized block and Latin square designs. மொத்தம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 10 யூனிட் கொடுத்துருவாங்க. இதுதான் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா Pgtrb க்கான சிலபஸ். தொடர்ந்து அப்டேட்டுக்கு நம்ம சேனல் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணி வச்சுங்க. தேங்க்யூ டீச்சர்ஸ்.